computer. The other thing I went through, is I went through and I read them all, and I kind of thought, okay, what's the sense that I'm left with in terms of the categories that people seem to be jumping out at them. And so, remember that this is through, my eyes and my biases, but the categories or the things that jumped out at me is, we definitely want to create more green space, both public and private. A number of people thought pollinator habitat was important. Ecological corridors were important. Planting more trees, both for sequestering carbon, reducing heat island effect. I'm going to throw in there as a restorative wellness person that the well-being of the general population really works better with trees. Decreasing the use of lawns, finding alternative uses of lawns, and also decreasing the use of water, more water capture kinds of things. And that we could kind of, how best to do those, the things that seemed to rise to the top was through ordinances, reviewing what's already being done or what's not being done, where we need to encourage things, through incentives, through education, through partnerships. And I'm gonna tout it out there again. I've said it a number of times, but I just think it's too important not to say. I think we need to be including Indigenous voices here. We are talking about Indigenous people's lands. They should be part of restoring those lands, at least their ideas, however we choose to do that. So I feel really strongly about that. So whether or not it's not anywhere in there, but I put it down.
So we couldn't get some Indigenous people working through this process.
I absolutely agree, Ariel, and it may be something that we want to suggest to Ted in the future, or for towns to be doing that. There's enough Abenaki voices out there that are rising up. I think we really, really need to be in partnership with those. They need to have a voice. They were tending this land for 10,000 years or more, and so they need to have a voice in whose spaces these are and what they're called, and how we restore the lands. So that's kind of the things that rose up. And I'm happy, before we jump into this, if there's anything else that I'm kind of forgetting, but those are the things that really struck me as kind of common themes. Yeah.
Well, I wonder if it's too late. Do people know? I wonder if we're completely too late to try to find some Abenaki people.
We are for tonight, but I don't think we are necessarily for, it's never too late to start a conversation, especially when we get to the support, the implementation part, bringing it to the town. I think that's where it's going to be really important. We can say we think pollinator habitat's good, we think ecological corridors are good, we think native species are good, but is there a way that we can honor the land? Is there a way that we can honor the uses of the land prior to us being here that should be brought to the forefront, whether it's signages, whether it's identifying sacred spaces, whether it's ceremony, however that expression of relationship to the land wants to come through. I don't think it's too late, Ariel. I think the sooner the better, but I think for tonight we can jump through what we have and do our best to see it perhaps through the Indigenous wisdom that might be in our own bones and through our own eyes. So all right, any thoughts before we jump right into this?
Just one quick one. I was reminded in our last discussion that we really are working on several goals, long-term goals, and these are like increasing the tree cover and diversity, townwide canopy forest, and we modified these somewhat. Increasing the use of native species and pollinator restoration areas, reducing the microheat island effect through impervious surface reduction, caring for wildland forest ecosystems and urban forest ecosystems.
Right. So I think those.
So I sort of.
Yeah, I think that dovetails pretty well with just the gut feeling that I was left with in running through, the things that had been chosen. So now it's just a matter of going through 80 line items and giving, fingers up and thumbs down. And, perhaps the easiest thing to do, is somebody willing to be a calculator person? So, because we might just take a vote and say, hold up 1, 2, 3 fingers, and I'll count the fingers, and that person can tabulate it. So, so, how does that sound?
I can count.
You can count? Okay. Can you
I can count, but I can't see
divide by
everybody,
5
so
people?
I need to.
Okay, so I'll give you the numbers because I think, how many of us are, oh, Carl's here too. Hi,
Yeah.
Carl. And
Hello, I'm making dinner right now, so I'm walking
Okay.
around. I'm
Okay.
listening though.
okay. So there's 1, 2.
So
no,
John, you cannot see us?
I can only see the person who's talking.
Okay, so can you put it on gallery view, John, if you go up to the right-hand corner?
Where it says more,
Yeah, perhaps.
meeting settings.
No, there should be a thing that says view all the way up to the top right-hand
Maybe
corner.
I'll stop screen sharing for a minute.
Okay.
Maybe he can find it easier.
Oh, hang on a second. It's on the upper left-hand corner. Yep, I
Oh,
was looking
your
upper
upper
right. I
left-hand
got you.
corner.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
so we
you.
got 6 of us here. Excellent. So Gary, go ahead and start screen sharing. And I printed out all the things, so I don't need the screen to read it. But if it's helpful to you all. So we're going to try and keep in mind how much support we think it has, the impact of if we were to implement this, and the equity of implementation. And so,
Okay, I'm gonna need to continue to have some help because when I screen share, I lose
you
everybody's
lose
faces.
everybody. Okay.
Except for the person who's talking.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, John, is I will count the number of fingers for each one, and then you can just divide it by 6. Carl, you're going to have to yell out, since you're not on video and I can't see you. You're going to have to yell out what you want for a number.
Yeah. This is the first time I've done this. I missed the last meeting, so I've got to watch for a minute too.
Okay, so sometimes,
Yeah.
John, you'll be dividing by 5, and sometimes you'll be dividing by 6.
I just barely participated the last time,
Yeah, but
so I'm still
you've
getting a
been-
feel for it.
That's okay, but you've been through all these because I know by the comments that you made that you've been through. You went through this pretty
Well,
meticulously.
That was a long time ago now, though.
That's all right.
yeah.
It's me too. I mean, I had to go back and read these, and then one of them said, "Oh, this is my favorite one," and I'm thinking, I don't even remember reading that one.
Yeah. Just FYI, you should be able to select side by side gallery, John.
I should be able to.
Yeah.
I'm working off an iPad.
Okay.
So things may be a little different.
Yeah.
So my upper left-hand screen just says leave. I don't want to do that. And I also see
Oh,
a rotate button, which will show everybody nothing. So.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're
Don't
just
worry about
going to dive right into this, and
Yep,
Okay, so
good.
what
Do it.
what number are we starting on?
we're going to start on number 7.
Okay.
Whoops. My cat is bolting around. Okay, so manage publicly owned natural areas to enhance and maintain diverse native communities. And John, you had a comment on this one that sounded like the Hartford, the Forest Commission was already doing, or the Conservation Commission was already doing something like this.
Yeah, or we're working on it, or to be adopted by. I was thinking, who's going to do it? I thought the Conservation Commission could be doing it. We are doing it, actually.
Okay, so then the
We're-
question becomes, I think you were the only one who saved this one. Would you like to continue to save this one, or shall we take it off and think, and hopefully that the Conservation Commission will pick it up?
I think an endorsement. If this committee thinks that it should be endorsed, we should do it.
Okay, so let's take a vote on this then. And if you would please, for the amount of support you think it would get, I'd like you to hold your fingers up in front of the screen so I can count. All right. 4, 3, 7.
Oh, 5 is the highest?
Yeah, 5 is the highest. Okay, 5, 9. Leanne, what's the number you have? I can't see your hand.
Sorry, I know. I'm not putting it up because I'm still
Okay.
trying to.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
haven't done much voting on this. That's what I was
And
saying.
so, yep, and so what I want you to do is go with your gut. Don't overthink it, just go with your
Yeah.
gut. So
Or,
make,
or she could just abstain.
yep,
And
or you
then,
can abstain.
Carolyn, maybe you just need to look at us and get a gut number to tell,
Yeah, Ariel,
you know, because
I like that. That was something that Ted suggested. This is
Yep.
just gonna take way too long, I'm fearing.
Okay, okay, so Meg, so everybody hold your hands up again. All right, let's go with 4.5.
4, right?
4 to 4.5. Because you've got a couple fives there. All right, impact. Oh, do you want that as the overall thing? No, we better do 3. All right, impact. Go ahead and hold your hands up. John, slide it over just a little bit to your.
All right.
There you go. 3. All right, we're going to go with 4 on that one. All right, and equity. And 4.5.
Ariel, can you share, could you copy and paste the link into the chat for this spreadsheet?
Okay.
All right, well done.
I'm having a hard time reading the letter, reading the wording.
Okay. Maybe Carolyn, you want to do that?
Let me see if I can.
Otherwise,
Who's screen sharing?
Ariel is screen sharing.
I am.
But I
So
have
you
it.
want the action?
Yeah.
Here, I got it.
J-
Okay, hold on. I have to go back. Check. Goodness. Okay, so there's that. I have to screen share again.
Where is it?
So did you get it, Carl?
Mhm.
And then
Carl?
there'll be a password when you open it up, Carl.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it is,
The password.
what is it, Action 20?
Action 2021 Hartford with
Okay.
the A and the H capitalized, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ariel, we're going to go to number 12.
Okay.
All right, so assess whether or not to purchase and preserve green space in and surrounding the city by quantifying the equitable, environmental, and economic benefits, along with the costs of maintaining and owning the property. We had one person who saved this, but no comments around it.
We can move through it. I think I saved it.
Okay.
I don't think it's practical, so let's move.
Okay, so we're going to take off number 12. I'm going to cross that off. And actually, what I was going to do, I forgot to mention this. Since I looked through how many people saved different ones, how about if we start with the ones with the most saved and then work ourselves back? Does that work out? Okay, so Ariel, let's go to 16. There were 3 people who saved this. Develop an urban forest management plan to establish objectives and best management practices for the municipality's urban forest and to identify appropriate canopy cover and species diversity goals for the city. So basically how to establish objectives and manage the urban forests, the canopy cover and the species. All right, so when you're ready, hold up your hand for support. So we're going to.
John, why do you only put 2? I'm curious, John.
I don't think the community is going to support it that much. I think that it's, thank you for asking. also think it's a little hard to define what's being asked for, what's being said here. So I don't know where urban forest begins. That's a disadvantage of being a forest, foresters trying to split this stuff into smaller pieces.
Right. And especially in an area like this, where there is a lot of contiguousness. We have the rural areas that feed in. We don't have a large urban area.
Right.
And so based on what was there and what I would throw in, I put it at about a 3 or slightly higher. All right, impact of implementation, if it were to be implemented.
So am I saying 3?
3
for
for, yes, 3 for support.
All right.
Uh, 2, 2, 3, 4.
Carl, do you want to jump in on any of these yet? No. Okay, Ariel, we can go with a 3 on this one for impact. And then equity of implementation. How equitable would the implementation of this be? Ariel, do you want to have a vote here?
I don't understand this concept, so I'm not voting right now. I mean, how do you determine if this is equitable? I don't
Your gut feeling right now? Leanne, are you abstaining? Oh, 4, okay. All right, so John, that's a 4. All right, so let's go with 3,
Yes.
3.5. All right, so that was 16. 23. Monitor the urban forest using both on-the-ground and remote sensing technologies to document how it is responding to climate change and establish ongoing monitoring protocol.
I have a comment to make on this.
Yes, and Leanne had one also. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so my quick comment is, I think this is really expensive. I don't think we don't, as a town, have the capacity to do this.
Yes.
From an expense standpoint or something else. This is something that would be more logically done by a research university or U.S. Forest Service or something like that.
I would have to agree. And Leanne, I think you said a similar comment. It might have been that this sounds interesting or what technologies are out there or something like that.
Can
So
we just forget this one then?
I'm okay with that. Anybody else did not agree with that? Let me make sure I'm seeing. Okay. All right, so we're going to skip 23, take that off. So 28.
And can everybody read this in their own heads? Can everybody see it? Because we might save some time doing that.
Is everybody all right with that if I don't read it?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I do need Ariel to spin through it because I copied it onto paper, but I don't have the numbers with it. So
Okay.
I need to know which is which.
All right. So 28. All right, so let's go ahead and throw your fingers up for support for number 28.
Is that 4 or 5, John? 4?
Sorry, that's 5.
All right, there's a 5, a 4. I'm going to give it a 4. Leanne's got a 5. So 5. So let's go with 4.5. That's for support. Impact of implementation. Again, a 5, John, is that you? Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know where you can see it or not.
If you hold it up about your neck level, just under your chin.
Got it.
Yes, perfect.
Or next to your head is fine.
Yeah. So, Meg, can you take it up just a little bit? Is that a 4? Okay. 4, 5. Leanne, anything on you? Okay. Ariel?
I have 5 up there.
5. Okay, there it is. So let's go with 4.5 on that one. And then equity of implementation. Whenever you're ready.
4.
5, 3, so that would make that up to
Again,
6,
I don't
4.
get how that can be evaluated,
Yeah.
but
Okay. All right, let's go with 4 on that one. And we can be done with 28. And then we're going to go right to 29.
I was gonna think that this one is not a useful one, partly because of cost.
Right. And I think it's fairly narrow in terms of impact too, at least just with the one suggestion that's there. Does anybody object if we drop this one out? Okay, so 29 is out. 41 is next. So my comment on this one would be, this might be something that's better farmed out. I'm not sure that the town would be one to develop the list. They might be one to be able to post the list, but should we be responsible for developing it? But there were three people who chose this one, so.
we could
So
change.
my
Go ahead.
Okay, so my comment would be is that the tree board already has something
Mhm.
and that they've worked out with the town tree warden that deals with list of species that are recommended for people that are doing development. I think that can be used, but I also think that there's a better regional way to do this than just town.
Yes, and also the one that you're talking about, is that just tree species? Or is
Yes,
that, okay,
just
yeah,
yep.
because
Yep.
this one is suggesting pollinators, birds, wildlife,
Yep.
things like that. So I think
Yep.
the idea is really good. I think that's an important thing to have. I don't know whether the town's the right one to do that. So is this a place that we give a nod of support to and partner with somebody to do that, or that we say we're going to move on to something else and that we shouldn't be responsible for this?
But the town would be the one to initiate.
Town would be the
Such
one
a
to
thing.
initiate and perhaps post it and keep it updated.
Right. So
But
I
would-
think that's all we're really talking about. I mean,
So then perhaps let's change the word. Instead of us developing a comprehensive list, let's say initiate the process of developing or something along those lines. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I like that.
initiate development.
Yeah. However minimally or exhaustively large wording you want to put in there. I tend to be kind of a wordy person, so I don't mind being edited at all. So if we go with the new wording of initiating the development, how do we vote on support for that? Looks like a 4 straight up. Okay. All right. How do we go for impact of implementation? I'm going to go with 3.5 on that. And equity of implementation. Yes, and Ariel, I agree. It's really, really hard to judge on equity piece.
Help me with this.
There's not.
I mean, they're all equitable. Everyone breathes the air and enjoys the
Right.
trees. I don't know.
Okay, so let's go with 4.5 on that one. And that's 41 down. Are you guys okay with this process so far? I'm just going to
Oh,
do a
this is good.
check in here. Okay, so next, I gotta go to sheet 2. Yeah, it's going to be number 61.
Huh, there's nothing,
Yeah, I know there's something there.
I guess that's it, okay.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. So support.
What kind of time frame do you think we're talking about? Like, I feel like this
Good
one
question.
is like you could probably convince people, but it might take a little bit of time.
Time to convince
Oh.
them to do these things.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna take a long time.
Within a year or something, that could we muster support, that kind of.
I would hope so, because most of this is pretty simple for implementation.
Yeah, well, that's
Um,
what I mean. Like, should we just define it as within a year we think we can muster support?
No, I think we should just be general.
We should be general and then be specific when we get down to pare it down. I think I would go with more general at this point.
I mean, you could say that about the whole process with all the categories, and I don't,
Yeah.
I think we just need to, in a general way, say, would there be support? Don't you think,
Yeah.
John?
Okay.
So
John?
my sense is that we're talking about city-owned properties.
Mhm.
So that's actually simpler to do than individuals, than on private lands, because you don't have to convince a whole lot of people. And quite frankly, the person that's in charge of maintaining this town parks is Dylan. I lost his Kreis. Dylan Kreis is very interested in this.
Okay.
So I think we've got the potential for it happening. The piece that I don't get are biochar amendments, polyculture lawn mixtures. It's easy to raise the lawnmower.
Mhm.
It's easy to not mow as much. It's not so easy to start adding amendments.
Polyculture just means more than one type of species, though, right?
Yeah, but
That
it's
seems
lawn.
easy.
It's grasses.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
So
in
more
playing
than one
fields,
grass.
that's probably not going to change.
Right. But are there other areas that we could get it to change?
there are
Yes,
little
yeah.
parks and
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah, absolutely.
So I think that the general framework for something like this, having that in place as a way to encourage the town to manage the green spaces that are currently lawn, with the hopes that we can transition to more less lawn, I'll say, over time.
Mhm.
At least with the lawn we have, can we start with a positive impact?
Yep.
All right. So
Oh,
support.
absolutely. I think
Okay.
that's easy.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead and let's vote on support. We got a 4 and a 5. So let's go with 4.5 for support. Impact of implementation. Let's go with a 5. And equity. We'll go with another 5. All right, now that's 61. Next 3, 71. Carl, feel free to jump in anytime.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still listening.
That's okay.
It's starting to make sense, but not quite yet.
Okay. What's that?
Oh, I'm mumbling. I don't know what it means.
Oh, I like this one a lot. So if I'm
Okay.
reading it right, and I don't know who, I don't even know if I saved it or not. So it sounds like, I'll use my neighborhood as an example. Looking at ways to bring contiguous land pieces together in what we were talking about, ecosystem corridors or pollinator species. So we have 3 neighbors on my street who are all working together to reduce the fragmentation and make it more of a contiguous thing. And I
Yep.
think that's
Yep.
what it's
Yep.
saying.
I got it. I'm sorry, it was number 72 I was reading, so this one
Okay.
does make sense.
Okay.
Sorry.
72 you don't have to worry about because nobody saved it. So we crossed that
Awesome.
off. All right, so let's go for any other questions on 71 before we take a vote on the support. All right, jump right in with your fingers. Be brave. All right, I'm going to go with 4 on that one. Impact of implementation. Ariel, is that a 4 or 5? I can't. 4, okay. 4, 4. I'm going to go with 4.5. Equity of implementation. That I think is, to me, is going to be a little more challenging. Ariel, is that a 4?
It's a 3.
3, okay, there we go. 3, 3, yep, that's sort of my gut feeling too. So let's go for a straight up 3 on that one. Sorry, I probably biased it by saying that.
Yes, in a good way. Rightfully so. Because
Okay.
it has to do with home ownership, basically, right?
A lot, yep, home ownership, yeah, absolutely. Yep, and even home ownership, whether or not they have the resources as a homeowner to be able to do it, much less whether they are a homeowner. Okay, so number 76. All right, when you are ready.
What does low mid mean?
Low mid, I think that those were designations for the cost of implementing something like this. I believe there are a number of ones in here that different municipalities said this would be low cost, high cost, mid cost, if they had to lump it into a particular.
And there isn't any such program now, just asking.
I don't know of any, and yes,
Not on a municipal basis, not municipally.
yeah.
Great.
And certainly I don't think that there's an incentive program on the municipal basis. So, okay, so fingers up and you are ready. Four for you, Leanne. 4, 4, 4. All right, we're going to go with 3.5 on that one. Impact of implementation. Feel free
So
to
John, you don't think there would be support because what?
It's going to cost money.
Right.
Incentives cost money. So unless we could get grants to do it, I don't see the town's people wanting to vote a line item for doing that.
Mhm.
Fair enough. All right, impact if we were to implement this. If we were to get incentives.
I
Let's
just
go.
changed it to 4. So
Okay. Come on, Leanne, be brave, commit. All right, let's go with 4 on that one. And then equity of implementation.
well, in that case, if someone was poor or didn't have a house or had a house, I mean, they're just paid to plant a tree, right? So
Or
isn't that
whatever-
equitable?
Whatever the incentive is, whether it's a payment or voucher for something, they do get some sort of financial backing or reward or something for planting a tree.
So you, never mind. Okay, I don't know what to think. I mean, you have to own a house, but you're not punished if you don't have a house. So
Right.
I
All
don't
right.
know.
I'm gonna go, it's between 3.5 and 4 on that one. So Ariel, you choose 3.5 to 4. Okay. All right, that was what number was that? 76. Okay, number 83.
My problem with most of these is that I don't live in Hartford, and so I don't know a lot about what the current conditions are.
That's all right, you're not the only
But-
one, and I live in
So like, I don't know how many, urban tree canopies are in need of expansion.
And that would
But-
be hard to know unless there was an inventory. I'm not sure that there's anybody who could tell you that.
Okay.
But to me, this one's a little different in the sense that we're not talking about overall urban forest, we're talking about heat islands, which it's pretty easy to drive around and see where there are places that between roadways or between 2 and 4 lanes where it's just concrete right there. So
Parking lots, yeah.
what's that, Ariel?
Or parking lots.
Parking lots, things like
Yep.
that. So it's a little bit more specific on this one that I read it. Okay, so when you're ready, how much support could we get for getting rid of some of those heat islands with trees?
I'm gonna go 3.
Okay, Ariel, you're at a 5.
All right, I'll go back down to 4. 'Cause no, for real, like
I put
I
it
don't
about,
live there.
I'm gonna go about 3.5 on that one.
all right.
And impact of implementation, how much? So interesting question on this one. When they say impact of implementation, are we talking about the impact of that specific heat island? Or are we talking about the impact of the overall carbon reducing heat in the town of Hartford? I don't have a good answer for that. I'm just throwing that out there when we think of impact.
Are we asking that question about all of these?
No, I just happen to think of that in terms of this, because if you plant a tree in one of those, heat island, and that'll be great for that one little spot. But how many of those spots do we have, and how much of, and I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. It just popped into my head.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So my thought, just quickly, my thought is that the implementation of this, if we could get trees planted in and around parking lots and around buildings, it would have a big impact.
Yeah.
That's the way I looked at it.
Okay, then let's do it that way. I like that way. All right, so impact. 5 and a 5 and a 5. Oh, everybody liked that. Okay, let's go for a 5.
I'm your good salesman.
Equity of implementation. Yeah. Ditto. Okay, 5 all the way through on that one. 83. 84 is kind of similar. Maybe just similar if we talk about parking lots and buildings, but so we can either lump this one in with 83, or we can vote on it separately if somebody thinks it's significantly different than 83.
So the nice one about this one is it's targeting city facilities, and the other one is not just city.
Yep, correct.
So
Okay.
I mean, we could blend them together, but I think we've got a better chance of this happening near city facilities than we do in the parking lots that we've already approved up on Sykes Mountain Avenue.
Right, okay. So let's do this one separately then. All righty, so impact, or not impact, support. So the man who thought we would get more support for this one.
Yeah, that's what I think.
4, 3, 4. All right, let's go with 3. Let's go with 4. It's a little under 4, but so impact of implementation. Is that 4, Leanne? Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah,
let's go 4.5.
I was thinking I don't really know how many city facilities there are.
Yeah, neither do we. So again, gut reaction. And equity. Yeah, 5. I agree. Well, Meg, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. What did you have up there?
I had
Yep,
5.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right, so that's 84. 84. Oh, we got just a couple more 3s here. 87.
Suspended pavement system.
So I'm not, this is one of those that for me feels a little more specific and high cost.
And system.
I don't even
Yeah,
know.
I can't make a comment on this. I feel like I
Yeah.
should know what this is, but I don't.
I don't have any
So
idea.
I don't want to, I just can't
Yeah.
comment on it.
Okay.
I think I might have saved it just because it sounded really cool and I want to know what that is.
Well, you weren't the only one who saved it, Leanne.
but I don't know what it is.
No, I saved it too. I don't
You
know,
saved
but
it
I don't
too.
know why now.
Okay, that maybe
Well-
maybe the words that promoting stronger and larger tree growth might have caught our attentions.
Mhm.
But you see that there's a link under that if we want to learn about it just on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
It's a
so
product.
I'm gonna say, shall we drop this one? Is that
Yeah,
okay? I'm gonna take that one off. It does sound cool, and I encourage people to go look it up. All right, 91.
oh,
Oh. Sorry, I looked it up. 91.
And you can tell us later.
little green roof incentives. You know, there's nothing wrong with exploring. Well, I don't know much about green roofs.
Yeah.
And my sense is that you need a lot of infrastructure to hold them up. You know, from an architectural standpoint, but a demonstration project would be interesting.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, they have lots of positive benefits. Yes, you're right. You do structurally, they need to be engineered so that they can support the weight. But between the impact of carbon sequestration, cooling, just more green stuff, they have a huge positive benefit.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen several and they're
yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, I went on my chicken coop. So
There's a school in Maine that was built with one
Mhm.
that I've been on the roof of.
Yeah, and I actually have some friends in Montpelier who have a living roof on their house, a green roof. So, and there are a number of ways to do it. It doesn't have to be just fully green the whole way across. It can also be planting, specific, specialized planting plans.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do a quick vote on this one. For support. This is for support. Exploring green roofs. Let's go with 3.5. All right, 3.5 for that. Impact of implementation.
No, I'm gonna go with 4.
Okay.
Implementing just means exploring, right? That's what
Implementing
implementing
means,
means here?
no, implementing means that you actually do it. Exploring
Well-
means you find out about it ahead of time. Or are we implementing the exploration?
I think we're implementing the exploration. What's the impact of that going to be?
Right.
Which would mean we'd have a demonstration or a model in town,
Right. So what's,
which
yeah,
is why I think that would be educational opportunities. So that's why I'm giving it a higher number.
okay. Looks like 4 all the way up on that one. And then finally, equity of implementation. Meg, is that a 3? Yeah, okay. 4, so 4. So 4 on that. That's 91, 91. All right, last of the 3s is 95. This one to me is a really good idea. I'm just not sure whether the town, yeah, whether they would take that on. They could certainly take on encouraging it or requiring it.
I would,
This is another research, right?
Well, research, evaluate, and pilot. But
so
it's,
there's some of this work has been done in the state of Vermont. And there's actually, well, at least 4 or 5 years ago, there was a woman professor at Norwich University who was doing work on this. It obviously hasn't taken off because there's not a lot of porous pavement around.
no, my understanding is Hypotherm did something recently that they had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did recently. So I don't know if that will like generate some interest now.
Well, let's go for a vote. And just, you can close your eyes and throw your fingers out there. All right, so the amount of support, 3, 4, 3. Meg, hold them up just a
I'm
little
putting
higher.
only 3 'cause
Yeah.
it's expensive, right? The pilot part is
Mhm.
expensive.
Yeah. Okay, so that looks like a 3. So impact of implementation.
Is this a pilot, just the pilot, or like if we really got lots of surfaces porous?
I'd love to say it was getting lots of surfaces porous because I think it could have a big impact, but that's not exactly, to me, isn't how this reads.
Yeah,
This is,
I agree with you, Carolyn. Yeah.
so what are we voting on impact here? So, Ariel, hold your hands up again. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, looks like, let's go with a 4 on that one. And then equity of implementation. So we've got this one, particularly in urban heat island areas with populations most vulnerable to heat. So it looks like they're working towards equity. Ariel, is that a 5 or a 4? There you go.
5.
Okay, yep, got it. 5, 3, 5, 5.
John, why do you say 3, John? John,
Sorry,
why?
I've got it.
That's okay. Never mind.
Let's go with 4.5 on that one. And Ariel was asking how come you want that as a 3, John, but you can come back to that.
It's okay.
All right, so how are we doing on time here? About 45 minutes into it. So I guess we're making progress. The next logical thing is to go with the twos, where people have saved twos. Does this process seem to be working for everybody? Yeah, just give me a thumbs up. Yeah, okay. Let me just reorganize my notes here again, so I have them in the correct order, so I can find them. All right, so then we are going to start on the twos. And since we're down at the bottom of the spreadsheet, I think I'm just going to go backwards. Does that work all right? Okay, so number 99. Okay, any comments before we do that?
Sorry, I'm not sure how much of this is available in our town. I mean, there aren't projects receiving city funding. Planned unit development, I don't know whether we have that. Conditional use permit, and we do have that, sure.
And even if not now, if Hartford is targeted as a climate migration place, it would be good to
Sure.
have some of those in place.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on support for something like this. Hmm. 4. All right, let's go with a 4 on that. Impact of implementation. Meg, is that 4 or 5? Your thumb is behind your name, so I can't see. All right, let's
Sorry,
go.
4.
That's 4. Okay, 4.5. Just hold your hand up slightly higher, because just the way your name is positioned on your little window for me, I can't quite see the bottom of your hand. Equity of implementation. Mm, 4.5. All right, that was 99. 93. So we're just moving down the building here. Instead of the roof, we're talking about the walls and vertical gardens. There's some really wicked cool ones out there, but I'm not sure the town of Hartford.
Huh. I wonder whether we should consider bundling this one with the green roofs.
Well, yeah, because there's green roofs, there's cool roofs, and there's green walls. They were all sort of the 3 here together. And the cool roof had just 1. Green roofs had 3, and green walls had 2 people. So, you know, certainly we could bundle them together as exploring green, as in living, roofs, walls for sequestration, for cooling, for, yes, I think these could be bundled together. I don't know if we want to do all the wording for it right now, but
Well, so I'm without putting a lot of energy into it. It seems to me that we could just add green wall, live wall, and vertical garden to the previous one that talks about green roofs.
Yep, that
Just
makes
putting
sense.
those 3 terms in.
Yep,
And I think we'd have,
yeah,
you know, it might not be perfect English, but it might work. And then I would,
then we'll take out 92
My-
and 93. So we're gonna bundle those.
So that was 91, right?
Correct, and so we're just gonna put in the words, you know, green wall, live wall, vertical garden. You know, you could make a note in there that says bundle with 92 and 93.
Okay.
Look at that, killed 2 birds with 1 stone. 3 birds almost.
and we don't have to vote anymore.
Au contraire.
Stop killing birds.
So what's 91?
91 was the green roof.
So we're bundling this with
So-
91 and 2, is that right?
So yeah, so under 91, if you would just add the words green wall, live wall, cool roof, and perhaps in parentheses, bundling with 92 and 93. So we're using 91 as the basis. And we're going to pull in portions of 92 and 93.
Okay, I'll have to do it after because I don't know how to edit with this.
Okay.
Can't copy and paste.
Okay, I've made a note on mine so we can remember. So 90, speaking of bundling. My sense is something like this could be really cool, but how many sidewalks? Oh, is this sidewalks or just pavement? I don't know enough about this one. Does anybody know about cool pavement things? No, okay. So shall we leave this one? Forego this one?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
that's
all right.
my vote. Move on.
Anybody object to dropping number 90? Meg, I'm not, make sure. You okay? Okay. Dropping number 90. 89. Does this sound relatively similar to the one we talked about with heat islands, planting trees in heat islands?
Yeah, I think the other one might have been exploring, whereas this one is like make an
Develop-
ordinance, so you have to.
I was just trying to see where that other one was. And then this is where I wish they were all sort of within one, with their little subcategories. Okay, well, let's go ahead and vote, and we'll see where it falls out and compared to the other one. So this is number 89. When you're ready. All right, let's go with 3 on that one. And then impact of implementation, if we were to get this implemented. Let's go with a 4. And then equity of implementation. 4.5. 89. And 88. I don't entirely understand this one.
Neither do I.
Anybody else want to jump in and explain?
Maybe Carl knows. Carl, you delve into parking. Right?
I looked this up.
Okay.
This proof of parking. Basically, before you, I think, buy a car, you have to prove that you have a place to park it.
Oh.
Hmm.
I think that's what it was.
It may be that there, the overall goal is to reduce the amount of parking spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it may, instead of proving that you have a place to park it, it may be that the developer has to prove that there is a need for putting in the spaces.
So such things as putting in like multi-family units, putting in 2 spaces for every unit. So making the assumption that every family is going to have 2 cars kind of thing, when in fact it could be just 1 car.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think it's like 1.5 cars per unit right now
Okay.
on average. And so they would be looking to reduce that ratio. Say, like you said, maybe 1 car per unit or even less.
Mhm.
And that they would need to prove that there has to be more. Somebody has to prove that in order to install more parking.
Okay.
This is a pretty good one.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of completely opposite of what happens now.
Mhm.
And then I think our zoning and probably state regulations would suggest that you need a certain amount of parking per space.
A liberal amount of
per
parking.
unit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
to make sure there's enough.
And it's not just residences or housing units, it's also shopping places.
Mhm.
So if you think of malls or the shopping places around here, how much of the time do you see the lots absolutely full?
Right.
And also it applies to on-street parking too. So all of those there is a large trend of that people are thinking that all these ratios, especially in the shopping markets, shopping plazas, that
Mm.
they can be reduced the amount of parking spaces.
And I wonder too if that's even more true now with more and more shopping moving online. So you have less people. Okay, so let's go ahead.
Looking it up online, though, it is like if you look up proof of parking, it is about proving that you have a space to park a vehicle before you can purchase it or register it.
Oh,
So it could
So
be
maybe-
it could be both strategies actually.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, if you put it in quotes like that, that's what is coming up on the internet as what
Yep.
that means.
Yep.
Okay.
But I like better what Carl was talking about.
Yeah, and to me, some ways, what Carl was
Well-
saying makes a little more sense in the way this is written because it says to minimize initial parking construction,
Right.
which to me suggests that it would be a commercial business that is trying to figure out how many people are going to come and park there, or a multi-unit facility.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I don't mind rewording it toward what Carl was saying. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that if you look that phrase up,
Okay.
it means something different.
So I'm going to make the executive decision that we're going to vote on it based on that. How does that sound? And let's do
That being what Carl said, right?
that being what Carl said. Yeah, what he said.
So later we're gonna reword it or now?
I think we just make a note that proof of parking.
Carl,
Why?
maybe?
Yeah, I'm just going to put Carl by that. How's that?
what
So
what
does that
Carl
mean
said.
What Carl said.
So that means Carl or you or somebody is going to reword it.
Carl's going to remember what he said. Okay, so here we go. We're going to vote on the support to implement something like this by the town. How people love their cars. 1, 4, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm going to go with a 3 on this one. Okay, so 3 for that. Impact of implementation. If we were to get people to say, you can only have one car.
John is really thinking.
All right, let's go with 4 on that one. And equity of implementation. This is a toughie because one would hope that it would encourage people to be able to use public transportation, but we do not have the world's best public transportation. I mean, we have advanced transit is good as far as it goes, but
I don't.
2, 4, 3, 3. I'm going to go with 3 on this one. Okay, that was 88. 85. There are a lot more 2s than there were 3s.
Ugh.
85 felt it was like really vague.
Yeah, I agree. I'd move on it. Even though
Anybody?
my thing says save, I don't know why it does. I
Did you
think
say
somebody else was putting save under my name.
way to pass the buck? Anybody object if we drop this one?
Seems too general.
Yeah, okay, dropping 85. Love it. All the way up to 68.
Mm. So I think there's a lot of ways of interpreting this as to, what is soil profile rebuilding?
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes sense. I think an easier step than that is just require that people plant trees appropriately, because
Well,
they typically get
trees,
thrown
but
in the ground. Yeah.
not just trees, but ground cover. That we minimize the amount of exposed soil. But if somebody's dumping trashy fill on there and trying to plant on top of it, it's going to be fighting against each other. So I think
that's the challenge, is that by the time you've done a construction site, you've really torn things up. And if the landscaping then means you could put a tree in, you dig a hole and the tree gets thrown in.
And you forget about it and leave.
Useful.
Yeah. So I think something like this paired with paired with ground cover, paired with tree planting would be better than just saying build your soil profile and leave. Dump a bunch of topsoil on there and leave.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not.
I think lumping it in with some sort of responsibility of building sites, building project sites. I don't know if there are other ones about building sites, but like responsibility to do it right.
Well, you got to define what do it right means, because if you don't define that clearly, they will find every loophole they possibly can.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah.
Does this mean rebuilding the soil profile above ground or below ground?
I would guess it would be rebuilding the soil profile of whatever you've removed. But I look at the Brown site that was next to me that that Twin Pines has put a place on, and they had to do mitigation by hauling off all the soil. So then what do you require something like that? How do you require it to be rebuilt so that it is productive soil and won't just be lost either through erosion or dust or anything else? And that they don't just dump clean fill on it to say we have returned the same volume of soil to this ground as we took away. So it can get pretty complicated. And
well, yeah, so sort of rebuilding the soil is a whole lot more than that. In my mind, it is getting carbon back into it. It's getting nutrients back into it. If we're going to really be rebuilding soil, we'd be getting mycorrhizae back into it.
Right, and that's
it can
not
get.
gonna happen with
I
soil.
just envision it getting really complicated. That's not to say that we should not be encouraging people that are developing project sites to add the carbon, to add the mulch, to add the nutrients, and that's more than just throwing some mulch on it and something turns green for 6 months.
Yeah. Or just throwing down basic grass seed when we're trying to minimize the use of monoculture lawn.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know what? I'm going to suggest we come back to this one because this one could get really complicated. So, anybody else object to that? And we'll move on and try and bang out a couple more of these. So we'll go to 67. All right, fingers up when you're ready, unless there are comments. 1 for support. Yep, straight up 4. Okay. Impact of implementation. Molly and jump, jump, jump. Yep, 4 on that one too. Equity of implementation. Looks like we got a lot of 5s. I'm going to be the nasty one and put in a 3 in there. So let's go with 4.5.
They're public trees.
They're
right?
public trees. Yep. So back up 5. Thank you. I just read that again. Thank you, Leanne, for pointing that out to me. Okay, 67. So that's a 5. All right. So now we move up to 65. This is one of those that probably is important, but I'm not sure that the town would do it. Is this one that you farm out and the town initiates having it done as opposed to actually doing it?
Does the tree board do anything at all like this?
So the tree board and the tree board and the town tree warden do have an inventory of public trees. But this is looking wider than that, I think. And I've been trying to understand carbon sequestration. I've been actually working at trying to understand it for a while, and I don't think it's that easy to measure, and it can be expensive. So I'm going to suggest that
Cedar Circle Farm said they've been measuring their carbon. I assume just measuring the carbon at intervals of 3 to 5 years, you would know whether you're losing or gaining. So I don't know how expensive that is, but it seems like it's possible.
Then we could go with the really simple thing of We know trees are being lost. We know they sequester carbon. And that green in general is being lost, and we just need more green. And so and we just need to keep planting trees and planting ground cover and native species. And yeah, anyway, that's me getting giddy and
Research carbon sequestration updated.
Well, you're making a good point, Carolyn, like just long-term goals. Well, we'll always need more. You know, why bother with all this when we know we need more? Although I guess if it's quantifiable, then that's a
that can be a
measure.
real incentive for getting support if it's quantifiable.
That's probably why it is. So several of these things we've said, oh, someone at Dartmouth could do this as a research project or whatever. I don't know if we want to have a category of those things to farm it out.
So I'm gonna suggest we go ahead, John.
I was going to say that as I'm thinking of what Leanne had said, I'm thinking that we, yes, I know this happens on individual parcels. It can happen. I have forester friends that do those assessments, but we're looking town-wide here. And I don't know of good strategies for doing a tree survey and carbon sequestration on a town-wide basis.
So I'm going to suggest we come back to this one. I'm just going to put it on hold. And let's move on to number 64. All right. Comments before we vote.
Have we already voted on one similar to this? I mean, we don't want prairie grasses for certain. I mean, you don't have, that's not a native grass.
No, but what it can be depending on the conditions, and also knowing that climate is going to change the conditions that we have here. So no, we're not a prairie, but those species can sometimes be very valuable in restoring what we have and being more resilient to what we're going to become. But I don't think it needs to be necessarily prairie. We can say native species.
Right. I would be inclined to go that way.
Yep. So, all right, let's take a vote on this one. Support for getting rid of lawns and returning them to native species. And no comments about ticks. 3, 4.
I took a picture of the first one I pulled off this year.
Yeah. All right, let's go with a 4 on that one. For support. Impact of implementation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go for a 4.5 to 5 on that one. And equity of implementation. John, is that a 5 or 4?
I'm sorry, that's a 4.
Okay, that's fine. All right, 4 straight up. Okay, gang, I want to just do a quick check-in. We're at about 8 minutes of 8. And while we've made really good progress, we still have a good ways to go. So, thoughts?
My thought would be that we continue to go with the twofers and leave the ones right off.
Okay. Bummer, that was my favorite one that I couldn't remember that I did. But I said it was my favorite one. Okay, so in that case, is everybody okay if we stay a little past 8?
Yeah.
You okay? I will try and minimize it.
I do go to bed at 9, so
Yeah,
I can't
I
say
am-
like forever, but
I am not a party girl, Leanne. I am exactly the same category. So, okay, so let's go with 63 then. So while this one to me makes sense, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't,
It kind of goes with that number 68.
yeah.
So if that's all right, we're gonna go put question marks by that and move on because we're not quite sure about those. Anybody had an objection to that? All right. 56.
Hmm.
So this one to me would somewhat fall under the one we voted on about minimizing fracturing between places.
Mhm.
Which I have no idea anymore what.
that one was like private property neighbors, right? So this one
Well,
is like everything.
I used my neighborhood as an example for that. I don't
I
know.
think it specifically said
Did it?
neighbors.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one actually is a little bit more inclusive of everything and
I
everybody.
agree. It's broader and it's across the community or it's
Mhm.
across the town as opposed to across the
Yeah,
neighborhood.
neighborhood. Yep. So, all right, let's throw a vote out
Doesn't,
there.
you
Oh.
know, the other ones say promote such and such a thing or require such and such a thing. This is saying enhance it, but it's not saying how. I mean, it's a goal. It's a little less specific as to what's being asked of the town, unless I'm missing something.
No, you are not.
No, I don't think you're missing anything. So on the Conservation Commission, or say, I struggle with this, how do you do it? But it certainly is something we should be doing.
Well, we could say promote the enhancement of, or explore the, or something, you know.
Enhance the connectivity.
This is a place where we could say through ordinances, through incentives, through education, through partnerships. It's the broader goal. It's an inclusive goal. It does not have the specifics of how to, but I think any of those, any or more than one of those could be a how to do it. If we
So we
chose.
could say to explore how to enhance, you know, I don't know. Maybe we should just leave it at this.
I think sometimes you see opportunities that you can't, you see opportunities to
Okay.
maybe do something and if you've already defined what you're looking for, you don't see it.
Okay, let's just keep going.
I mean, that was kind of a convoluted statement, but
It made sense.
sometimes it's better for things not to be,
Nailed down. Yeah, okay.
Okay, let's
Okay.
go for a vote. Support for enhancing connectivity of green belts and habitats. Once people understand what we're talking about. 4, let's go 4 straight up, okay? Impact of implementation. 5. I'm going to go for a 5 on this one, even though Ariel's got a 4. It would be pretty close to 5. Equity of implementation. All right, let's go with, it's a close 4. I'm going to go ahead and put a 4 on that one. All right, that's a 56. Okay, hey. 54. I'm going to jump right in on this one. All right. 4, 4, 4, 5. Let's go for 4.5 on that one. And impact of implementation. Four and a half. And then equity of implementation. Let's go with 4. That's 54. All right, 53. Go ahead.
So I'd be happy to bundle this one with that other one that we talked about. How
Yeah,
we're gonna
there's
manage the parks. That
there's
includes the
actually
biochar thing.
the biochar ones. You mean the soil profile ones? No, there was a different one.
No, it was a different one. It was on one that was related to town properties or parks.
Okay. So not a clue without looking through all of these.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's just vote on it and see because I think it's
Okay.
similar. If we come up with, we can combine them later.
Okay, sounds good. All right, fingers up. Improving ecological functionality and resiliency. 4, 4, 4, 4. Let's go with a 4 on that one. Impact of implementation.
John, is that a 5?
It is a 5, yes.
Okay.
All right, 4.5. And equity of implementation. Yeah, let's go 5 on that. Okay, 53. Done. 51. Actually, so xeriscaping, does everybody know what xeriscaping is? Xeriscaping is low water. Landscaping for minimal water use and minimal maintenance. So almost could be with number 54, low impact landscaping to reduce consumption of water in yard. And this is a little, go ahead.
If you don't mind, yeah. So my problem with xeriscaping is that we're in a pretty moist climate in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is really more applicable to say if you're in Arizona or some other place where people are pouring water all over their lawns to try to make them green.
Yep.
So when I envision xeriscaping, I tend to envision a gravel front yard with a few little green sprigs sticking out of it. So that's my image. And so
we did have a drought, and Lebanon had ordinances about water
Yep.
usage for lawns.
Yep.
last year. So
And we are desperate for rainwater now. And
Yes.
I think the xeriscaping, if I understand it, at least applicable around here, would be rainwater capture, bioswales, things like that, as opposed to not just putting on low use water sucking up, but how can we capture the water without having to add it on through municipal water or wells or things like that. So I think there can be my understanding is there can be a slightly broader definition of the xeriscaping than the arid Southwest kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think anything that promotes native species and capture of the water and not having a lot of runoff over the surface would be a good thing. So, to some degree, even though this says is local and state policy changes, it could probably be bundled in with the low impact, encouraging use of low impact landscaping, which was one we voted on earlier. Does that, maybe that wording is better for us than the xeriscaping?
I would support that.
Okay, so we're just going to bundle that one in. Anybody object to that? I should say that. Okay, we're just going to bundle xeriscaping. Where did it go? 51 to. Okay, so 51, I'm taking off. 48. Shall we just go for a vote? Sorry. 4, 5, 4.5. Oh, sorry, Leanne. Go ahead. Okay, let's go for 4.5 on that. Impact of implementation. Four. And then equity of implementation. Mm. 4.5. It's 48. 46. Leanne, I think you had a comment on this one. Are there even any restrictions and grass requirements that we have in ordinances? And I don't know of anything. If there are, I'm in trouble because I have all kinds of plans for my yard. So I guess I would rather see the words like encourage, what if my brain's going? Modifying lawns, changing lawns over to, native species and pollinator habitats and things like that.
which I think other ones say that we've saved.
Right. So
I feel like I didn't say save, but I put the comment.
yes, you did, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Does anybody have any objection if we don't vote on this one?
Nope.
Okay. Moving right
think
along. So 46. 45.
Yeah. So the tree board is actually doing this now.
Okay.
They spent some time, I think 2 weekends ago, looking for trees that they felt were significant, and they didn't only have to be on public land.
Okay. So are we okay skipping this one because it's already been covered? Anybody object? All right. 45, done. Moving right up to 32.
Cool.
I think the only thing that I might change in here is to just, if it's not already put somewhere else, is reduction of lawn. Including that as part of the list of things.
Yeah, if I was going to modify, yeah, so that would be fair. And if I was going to modify it, I just always have this thing about saving every tree, the number of existing trees, they get bigger.
Mhm.
So if you establish that you have to have 20 trees on a certain parcel of land, they're going to get crowded after a while. But that's the forester thinking.
Right.
So I would say that the maximum amount of tree cover I could do, but I just don't like existing trees.
Then
if
let's,
you will.
yeah. And I also, you could read the maximum possible number of existing trees could mean that you have to take some out because that's more than the maximum number that can be sustained. So I don't see, but let's go with maxing tree cover. Is that what you would do to modify that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Tree cover.
So give me the wording, or Carolyn, will you do it later?
I think instead of number of existing trees, you just say tree cover.
Yeah, maximize the possible tree cover. And it
So
doesn't have
move
to
your
be
cursor
perfect.
to the left. There you go. Right. Perfect. Nope, you had it.
Well, that's because I can't do
Oh, I'm
it.
sorry. You got to do it up there. Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay, I gotta move you guys out of the way.
We are almost done, folks.
So instead of number of existing trees, I just say tree cover.
Yes.
Yep. And also at the very end, Ariel, if you would put reduction of lawns or lawn space.
You want lawn space or lawns?
Either one. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, let's do a vote. Number 32. How much support do we think this will garner? Straight up 4, okay. Impact of implementation. I'm gonna go with a 5 on this one. Equity of implementation. Hmm, 4.5. All right, looks like we got about 3 more to go. 27. So 27 to me could be bundled in with Are those the ones where we were doing stormwater? And I don't remember which one that was. I don't recall. Okay, we're just gonna go. You gotta move, Cat. I can't see. I was talking to Cat, he had to move. 27, let's just go for a vote unless anybody has. So for support. Four and a half. Oh, sorry, Leanne, go for it. 4.5. Impact of implementation. Five. And equity of implementation. 4.5.
This is late on the program here, but may I make a suggestion and edit? We don't have a lot of creeks, but we have a lot of rivers.
All right, so let's put
be-
creeks and rivers.
It's a pet peeve of mine. So yes,
Agreed.
the sediment going the rivers is a pet peeve. I'm happy to, thank you.
Yep. No, it's a good pet peeve to have. We could just say any running water from the watershed. All right, so Ariel, did you get that little? Yes, you got it. Excellent. That was 27, 26. This one to me is really broad and kind of vague.
Huh. Interesting. Oh yeah, okay. So I was looking at it and saying, I'm surprised I didn't have save beside this one. Other than the fact of the fire management, I'm sure this one was from Boise or
Right, out west somewhere.
out west. Yeah. And I'm sure there were a bunch of foresters working on it because that language on the top 3/4 is classic. To me, it's a huge catch-all with a massive potential for a massive number of action items under it.
So who manages town forests? I mean, is there anyone managing anything right now? I guess is the question.
I think there are two answers to that. Number one, we do have a town forest, 423 acres. The Conservation Commission manages it, or basically we advise the select board. The select board has overrules on it. The Recreation Department manages a parcel of land that's 120, like about 125 acres. That's near the VA. Tends to be used more for recreation. There are a couple of natural areas that the Conservation Commission manages. But then you go broader from there, and there's a lot of privately owned land that is managed. And some of that is managed with oversight from the county foresters if the people are involved in the current use program.
All right, so let's take a vote, or actually, yeah, let's take a vote.
John, did you want to change any wording here? You didn't, right?
I don't think the fire management is significant here, but I don't think it's worth taking it out.
Okay.
Okay, so.
We've had a few small forest fires nearby, I think, in
Mhm.
near
All right.
Lebanon.
Straight up 4. Impact of implementation. Straight up 4. Equity of implementation. John, is that a 3?
It is a 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go a 4 on that one then. All right, one more, I think. Number 24.
John, do you have any thoughts on how much diversity there is now? Or whether the tree board tries to
Yeah, the tree
insert
board is
their,
interested in this. Yeah. So it's pretty much a standard now with urban forests is to try to avoid monoculture. We lost all of our elm trees all at once. We lost all of our chestnut trees all at once, and those are really classic examples. So increasing the diversity of urban tree species is exactly what the tree board and the tree warden would be wanting to do.
So it may not be necessary to vote on this since it's already kind of covered, implied.
Or we endorse it.
And we endorse it. Okay, well, let's do that. Let's be on the endorsing side of positive stuff. Okay, so support for increasing the diversity of urban species.
John, is that a 5 or a 4, John?
I'm sorry, that's a 5. I can't tell what you can see here. Thank you.
That's it. All right, let's go with a 5 on that one. Impact of implementation. 4.5. Equity of implementation. I'm going to go with 4.5 on that one too. Okay, gang, I think we did all the 2s and 3s and the 1s, except for the 1s. So
there were a couple we skipped because they were kind of
because they were
complicated.
complicated, and
Should we try to like email conversation those out, or?
that was basically 63 and 68. Don't think there were other ones. Let me just check and see. Oh, 63, 65, and 68.
Since there's only a few, maybe we can kind of work that out over email.
Oh, there's the biochar one, John, that we were talking about. 63, 65, 68.
So what are we gonna do about the ones with 1?
Well, that can be up for discussion.
I was gonna suggest that we read through them, and if anybody thinks there's something really important that wasn't covered with the ones we did score, that
So what
we
I
should
can
bring it up.
do, I can email the list of the ones that are that had a single one, so the remaining ones for people to look through. And I will also email the numbers, the 3 numbers that we did not, that were sort of question marks, those, and then we can perhaps have a follow-up discussion or email
Okay.
or something, but at least I'll get that information out to you, and maybe over the weekend and early next week, we can, if you all can look at those and see if you can pare them down, especially if
Okay.
they're ones that you saved particularly. You know,
Yep.
how can we winnow it down, or how can we bundle it
Yep.
with some things that might be covered? Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
All right.
Thank you, Carolyn.
You're
You're
welcome.
so organized.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Likewise.
Well, you guys, thank you for hanging in there. And Ariel, thank you for taking notes. And I'm guessing, I'll check with Ted, but I'm guessing he'll just take this information that we have in there, and I'll tell him not to do anything with the zeros yet, because we still have those to go through. Okay, you
Great.
all have a good night, a good weekend. Enjoy the weather. Pray for rain.
Yes.
There's supposed to be some this weekend, right?
Sunday,
Gotta
Maybe.
help
possibly.
those little amphibians get back to their pools.
Yes, yes. Okay, have a good night, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.